Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolf Pit and another episode of What Are We Eating? Several months ago, I tried Walmart's Great Value brand Luncheon meat, which is basically generic Spam. I actually thought it was as good or better than real Spam. But Great Value brand isn't really a small name brand, and from my experience, they have some pretty good products. So I recently found two more generic Spam and Treat knockoffs, one at the Dollar Tree and one at Dollar General. And from my experience shopping at dollar stores, their products aren't always the highest of quality. The generic brand Treat knockoff is Bristol brand Luncheon Loaf, which came from the Dollar Tree and obviously cost $1 because everything at the Dollar Tree costs $1. And the generic Spam knockoff is Clover Valley Luncheon Meat, which came from the Dollar Tree and costs a little more at right around $2. If you remember the comparison video I did between Spam and Treat, the Bristol brand looks just like Treat. And the Clover Valley brand looks just like Spam. So I'm pretty sure these are definitely supposed to be Spam and Treat knockoffs. So let's go over the Bristol brand Classic Luncheon Loaf first. And the first thing that pops out to me is a statement on the can that says fitting lifestyle. I don't know what that means. Do you? I hope they're not insinuating this is health food. The Bristol brand Classic Luncheon Loaf is made with chicken, ham, and baked ham seasoning with smoke flavor added. And now for the ingredients, and if you compare these ingredients with Treat ingredients, they're exactly the same. I mean, they're not close, they're exactly the same. So maybe the Bristol brand isn't so generic after all. Now for the nutrition facts. The serving size is 2 ounces, and there's obviously 6 servings per 12 ounce container. Per 2 ounce serving, there's 140 calories, 11 grams of total fat, 2 grams of saturated fat, 0 grams of trans fat, 50 milligrams of cholesterol, 480 milligrams of sodium, 3 grams of total carbohydrates, 0 grams of dietary fiber, 1 gram of sugars, and 6 grams of protein. And you would think, with the ingredients being exactly the same as Treat, that the nutrition facts would be the same as well. And they basically are, except real Treat has 8 grams of protein and only 100 calories from fat, compared to the Bristol brand 6 grams of protein and 110 calories from fat. So even though the ingredients are exactly the same, there's obviously a difference in the quantity or quality of ingredients. As expected, it has a long shelf life. Now, let's go over the Clover Valley Luncheon Meat, and as you can see, it's a product of Denmark. Now let's go over the ingredients, and just like Spam, there's not very many of them. But what stands out and is different from Spam is the coriander, mace, and pepper. So at this point, I was really intrigued and wanted to see how this tasted compared to regular Spam. Could these be the secret and unknown spices that are in real Spam? I doubt it, because my homemade Spam didn't have any of them and it tasted just like Spam. Now for the nutrition facts, and again, the serving size is 2 ounces and there's 6 servings per container. Per serving, there's 170 calories, 16 grams of total fat, 6 grams of saturated fat, 0 grams of trans fat, 35 milligrams of cholesterol, 550 milligrams of sodium, less than 1 gram of total carbohydrates, 0 grams of dietary fiber, less than 1 gram of sugars, and 8 grams of protein. These nutrition facts are pretty close to Spam, but the biggest difference is the sodium. Spam has 790 milligrams compared to the 550 milligrams. The Clover Valley Luncheon Meat has one of the longest shelf lives I've ever seen, at 5 years. But with that said, I'm pretty sure that Spam would last just as long or longer whether it's printed on the can or not. But something else I found very interesting is they tell you the date this was produced. Now let's slide these out of the can and see what we got. And you can definitely tell they're very different. And the Clover Valley has that wonderful gelatin in it. As soon as I cut into the Bristol brand, you can see the little white chunks just like in Treat. Now let's cut up the Clover Valley Luncheon Meat. And if I didn't know any better and opened the can myself, I would say this is Spam. When you're cutting up such fine, high-quality canned meats, you want to use nothing but the best cutlery. So after being neglected far too long, I'm bringing out the space-aged, state-of-the-art, scientifically designed, razor-sharp Plastisue. Look at the engineering and craftsmanship of this handmade, one-of-a-kind knife. Watch how it glides through these high-quality meats with ease, like it's cutting through warm butter. Where's Crocodile Dundee when you want to show him what a real knife looks like? I tried the Clover Valley Luncheon Meat first, and if I didn't open up the can myself, I would tell you this is Spam. It tastes exactly like Spam. And then I tried the Bristol brand luncheon meat, and although it did taste somewhat like Treat, it didn't have as much flavor as Treat. But it had the same texture as Treat, which I hate the texture of Treat. It's almost like a gritty pudding. As you can see, the Clover Valley has a firm, meaty texture, compared to the very soft and finely ground texture of the Bristol brand. But there's only one true way to give these a good, fair taste test, and that's to fry them. So on a medium skillet over medium-high heat, I'm going to add a couple pieces of each. Then let them fry for about 5 minutes until they're nice and golden brown and crispy, or a little bit longer if you want them extra crispy. After 5 minutes, or until they reach your desired crispification, give them a flip. Then let them go for another 5 minutes, or until they reach your ultimate level of crispification. Then remove your perfectly fried, golden brown and crispy pieces of processed meat and drain on paper towels. Now let's put the plasticine back to work, and let's sit back in awe and watch it do its magic. Sitting back and watching the plasticine effortlessly cut through this meat is like watching the late great, very talented, and oh so handsome Bob Ross paint a canvas full of happy trees. This time, I tried the Bristol brand Luncheon Loaf first, and after frying, it tastes exactly like Treat. The flavor is much more pronounced than it was straight out of the can. It was very moist, and even though I'm not a big fan of Treat, the flavor was okay. But that texture is gross. It didn't get crispy on the outside. It formed kind of a skin versus a crust, so it kind of felt like you were biting through fruit leather into gritty meat pudding. Just a very odd texture and unpleasant mouthfeel. And then for the Clover Valley, and it did form a nice crispy crust. It was nice and moist and still had a nice firm meaty texture. Flavor-wise, if I didn't know this wasn't Spam, I wouldn't be able to tell you it wasn't Spam. But since I do know it's not Spam, I do notice it not being as salty. Now if you watch, when I bend the piece of Bristol brand luncheon meat, it literally bends without breaking because it's so soft in the middle and it's got that thin skin on the outside that's not crispy. If it was crispy, it would break. And if you watch when I bend the Clover Valley luncheon meat, it does break because it's crispy on the outside and it's nice and meaty on the inside. Overall, the Clover Valley was my favorite, but that's because I'm more of a Spam fan than I am a Treat fan. But overall, whether they meant to or not, I think the Clover Valley was very similar in taste and texture to Spam, as well as the Bristol brand being very close to the taste and texture of Treat. The bottom line is, Clover Valley luncheon meat would satisfy a Spam fan, as well as the Bristol brand would satisfy a Treat fan. Both were pretty good for what they were, and if you're a fan of either Treat or Spam, I would definitely recommend buying one of these. Thank you all very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.